watching the TriCast of my video blog. I'm TriCasting on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook Live. So on whatever platform you're on, just join into the conversation and feel free to like and share as you get settled in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. And if you are a regular, welcome back to the conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about something that has an expiration date on it, and that's your ability to be counted in the 2020 U.S. Census. And a lot of you, I'm sure you already are aware that every 10 years, a census, a poll of the population of the United States is tallied. And that information, that population information, is used to determine a number of things, but primarily how federal funding is divvied up amongst states. And then the states, they send that money to the different districts or jurisdictions in their state. And so if you have wondered, you might wonder during election time or just looking and noticing how money is divided up in the United States, you might wonder, well, why does California get so much money? Or why does Texas? Why does Florida? Why does New York? Those are four of the largest states in the United States. And so because during the census times and when people immigrate to the United States, most of the time they end up going to one of those states. They can go anywhere, of course, but a lot of them have family members there. And, you know, if you have one family member or a family, then and they invite you from another country, you end up going to where they are so you can get that support until you can find out where you really want to be. And so if you're from a state like Rhode Island or New Hampshire, those are smaller states. And so you might have noticed during election times when they start talking about the Electoral College and how many electoral votes a particular state gets, without getting into too much detail, it all depends on the population of the state. And so it's important that you participate so you can make sure where you live, you can make sure that your district gets the accurate representation in the census. And so wherever you are, make sure it's important that you are counted. Now, the good thing is that you don't have to be an American citizen to be counted in the U.S. Census. You just have to be a resident in the country at the time of the count. And they've been counting, the federal government has officially opens up every 10 years. So between February and October, probably as late as November of that every 10th year, then that's when they go out and they get the count. They tally the count. They try to get everybody who's in the country present and accounted for. So if you live in a household and you've got 10 people in that household, or if you've got one person in that household, then everybody has to be counted. And since 2010, which was the last census count, a lot has changed. A lot of people have immigrated to the United States. Some people have left. Most people have come to the United States. A lot of babies have been born since 2010. And so everybody has to be counted. And again, that's the good news. Now, the bad news is some people don't want you to be counted. If you are an immigrant, if you are Black and brown in America, yellow in America, if you are anything other than white in America, there are a lot of people who they really don't care if you're counted, because, again, going back to the more population that a non-white person shows as being a part of the residency of the United States, that means more money is going away from traditional white Americans and going more towards different people, immigrants, newborns, people who might be considered to be not traditional Americans. And so, if you have been listening, you know that President Trump likes to, his goal is to exclude as many immigrants as possible for a number of reasons, but those reasons would be because, well, let me start here. You might have heard a couple of months ago when the census first started, when they first started opening up the count and allowing people to be counted, President Trump was trying to get a judge to, or just trying to change the law that says that you have to be an American citizen to even be counted in the census tally. And we've known for hundreds of years, or however long they've been doing the census, you don't have to be an American citizen. So a federal judge did deny that and told the federal government and the Trump administration that he can't just arbitrarily change that. Well, the reason why President Trump and others would want to change that is because the more, the less diversity in the count, then that means the more money goes to their rich friends. The more money they have to compile for what they have in store. And so that's what the first strategy was. Now the strategy, because a judge told the president that he was unable to discount people who are not citizens. So you can, if you're not a citizen, you still can be included in the count. Now what President Trump has done is he's changed the expiration date on how long the census count will go on. So, for example, like I said, it started in February of 2020, and that was early. You know, you would think that because of a pandemic, because people are not going out and about like they were, and a lot of things have changed, and people's minds are not focused on things that they normally would focus on in a course of a year. You would think the president would extend the length of the count, the time frame that you can go and mail in your census information, or have people come to your door and do the tallying, the door-to-door canvassing. But no, the president has his latest strategy is he wants to keep people from being counted by closing out the date that you can be counted. So as it stands now, September 30th is the end of the tallying that anybody, if you got a mail-in census, if you have a mail-in census, you now need to send that in no later than September 30th. It has to have a postmark on it of no later than September 30th, and it has to be in the Census Bureau's hands no later than October 7th. Now, this is at the end of August. So you might think, oh, I've got plenty of time. But I know you've also heard that the U.S. Postal Service, they're having some issues with delivery and the budget, and they're getting ready to try to handle mail-in ballots because of the pandemic. And so I would say if you have not sent in your 2020 census information, your mail-in information, I would say do it tomorrow. Do it, fill it out today, put it in the mail tomorrow. That gives everybody plenty of time to get their information where it's supposed to go. But also, traditionally, as far as the last census in 2010, the most reliable way to get people counted and to tally the numbers was door-to-door canvassing. And that would be people coming in, knocking on your door and saying, hi, I'm with the census. And they would say, this is your address. How many people live here? What are their ages? They would take all the biographical information and then they would turn that in for you. And or you would have gotten something in the mail with your address and then you fill that out and you mail that in. But again, those two traditional ways of tallying the count for the 2020 census are not reliable in 2020. I said the 2020 census. Yes, that's right. They're not reliable in 2020 because of a pandemic that's keeping people away. Social distancing is not allowing for the traditional canvassing. So that's out the way. And if you saw a stranger at your door today, you probably wouldn't even open the door. Okay, so that's one thing. Number two is if you had a mail-in ballot and you're waiting around, well, the post office is having such issues getting mail sorted and sent to where it's supposed to go. You need to give them as much time as possible in order to get your 2020 census information into the right hand so that you can be counted. So, and the post office, they're getting ready for the November election. So I wouldn't try to put anything in their, try to make them responsible for anything more than the biggest thing that we have going on. And I would say that would be the election right now. So if you have not received in the mail your 2020 census information, then I wouldn't be waiting for it. You can go online, but we'll get to that information later, because what I want to talk to you about is the money that the reason why Donald Trump is trying to curtail the count and make it so he's trying to change the narrative of the population and the demographical information of the United States. And it's because a lot of money is at stake. A lot of money is at stake. And we know, based on Donald Trump's own words, that he practices classism, he practices sexism, he practices racism. And so Donald Trump doesn't have a problem with classism. And the best example of that is he will go out of his way to create tax breaks for his rich friends. But when it comes to helping working class citizens, working class families who are suffering because of the pandemic and unable to be at work and not getting enough through the unemployment, all that Donald Trump and Congress, because it's not just Donald Trump, but all that they can agree on is a $1,200 check that came about 2-3 months ago, and in the meantime, everybody else is still out of work, or you're working half of what you were working. And so that is an example of Donald Trump and his classism. He can do all these things to get his crony friends their money and tax breaks, but when it comes to the everyday person, he doesn't seem to be working as hard. He practices sexism because he is a self-proclaimed sexual assaulter. He said he grabs women by the vagina. His wife he's a credibly alleged rapist. His wife claimed he raped her. His first wife claimed he raped her. And according to a prostitute, at least one, he's paid for sexual favors. He objectifies women. And if a woman has the guts and is smart enough to stand up to him and beat him at his own game, then he calls her names and talks about her biology. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, Donald, if it was up to Donald Trump, there would be only rich white people, and most of them would be rich white men because the other rich white women would be there for his pleasure, serving at his pleasure. And of course, we know Donald Trump practices racism because his uh, immigration policies clearly show that he disfavors people who are non-white. He called places in Africa and South America shithole countries, and he has done. If you are a white in America, even if you're a neo-Nazi who runs people down during peaceful rallies, he calls you a decent person. If you are a white man with a gun who protests in Michigan at the State House, nothing is done. Nothing is said about you. But if you are non-white and you protest peacefully in America, and then you are, it's okay for federal police officers to tear gas you and arrest you for no reason because you are practicing your First Amendment rights. And so that, in my opinion, is why I say that Donald Trump practices sexism, classism, and racism. And that's why he would prefer that you, if you were black and brown or Asian American, Hispanic American, African American, if you were anything other than white in America, he would prefer that you not be counted in the census because he wants the money that should go to your neighborhood, he wants it to go to his friend's neighborhood. And so now, here's what I want you to do. I am trying to post. I don't want to click something and then. Okay. I'm trying to post the census website. Now, if you haven't, as I was saying before, if you have not received any census information, because believe it or not, if you're in a rural area, then sometimes you might not have, at this point, in August 2020, and we've been counting census information since February. If you have not received yours, I wouldn't wait for it. I would get on a cell phone. I would get on a computer, whether it's a laptop or a desktop. And if you don't have a cell phone, or if you don't have access to a cell phone or access to a computer, maybe your library or maybe your community center in your area, if it's open, because a lot of public agencies are not open, and we understand why, because we're trying to fight COVID-19 and get everybody healthy and on the same page. But so if your government program, or if your library isn't open, or there's no government facility around with a computer, I would say call your friends, call your neighbors, see if somebody can allow you to use their cell phone and or their laptop or their tablet, their desktop, so that you can get this done, because it's very important for you to do this and be counted in the U.S. Census. Let me see. Just want to make sure. Some people can just talk for hours on end and not have any notes, but I just want to make sure that I tell you everything, because it's very important for you to be counted, so you can get your fair share. So don't wait for your ballot, don't wait for your 2020 census information in the mail if you have not received it, or if you misplaced it. You can still fill it out. And I want to say again, you do not have to be an American citizen for you to be counted in the 2020 census. You should still go ahead and fill it out. So don't feel like, oh, they're going to try to deport me if I fill this out. That's not how it works. So what I want to do is, I looked it up already. I've already filled mine out. I filled mine out months ago. In fact, they sent me two. And I don't know why I would get two and some people get zero. I don't know. At any rate, go to my2020census.gov. I meant to have that written down. Let me write it down right fast, because I want you to. All right. Okay, there we go. My 2020 census. That's not what's up there, is it? Hold on. Okay, I wrote it wrong. Let me try it again. I'm saying it right. My 2020 census.gov. Okay, let's try it again. It's hard to see it on this white paper. My2020census.gov. And when you go there, it's going to ask you to refer to the information that was left in the mail. But let's say that you didn't get anything in the mail, because it's asking you what your 12-digit census ID is, because every address has an ID number. But don't worry about that, because at the bottom, where underneath where you would put your 12-digit census ID that is in the mail that you didn't get, it says, if you did not get a census ID, click here. And when you click there, it's going to ask you, are you in the District of Columbia, or are you in one of the United States, or are you in Puerto Rico, or where are you? So once you answer that, then you hit next, and this only takes 10 minutes. So don't feel like it's going to take, you don't have time. If you trust me, for millions of dollars, you got 10 minutes, okay? So go ahead and put your address in and all that, and then you definitely will be counted. Because if you're always wondering, why do some jurisdictions have all the money for their schools? And why do we see them fixing the roads in another state or in another area of town? And why is it that we only have one representative that for us in Congress, or we only have 3 representatives? Meanwhile, this other state has 5 or 6 or 10 representatives. That's because the bigger the population, the more representatives they have. And so you have to make sure that you are counted, and everybody in your household. They don't even have to be a relative. And they're going to ask you this information based off of April 2020. So already have everything in your mind, what you need to do, and the information that you need to share. And that's it. We need to be counted. And I was trying to type that in, but for some reason, it's not letting me type it in. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, and I don't have time to be the maintenance person right now. But at any rate, like and share this video and pass it on to someone who needs it, or make your own little short video. Now, if you got time to make videos and stuff, then you got time to do this census, okay? So some of you might wonder, her face looks kind of fat right there. It's because I'm got some dental work going on, and so my face is a little swollen right there, just a little bit. But at any rate, that's it. Just want to make sure you know why it's important. A lot of people would say filling out the 2020 census is more important than voting, because voting is every 4 years. Well, the national presidential election voting is every 4 years for some guy who's up in Washington, D.C., who has little to nothing to do with you, except for voting for federal judges and some other, legislative things that you can pretty much get along with whether or not you like what they said or did. Although I'm not saying it's not important to vote, because I think it's important to vote, but I understand why some of us have decided not to participate. But participating in the 2020 census is most important because, again, the money that we pay into taxes, the money that is given back to our jurisdictions, our states, our local communities, comes from the 2020 census, or the every decade count. And so it's time, people. And so to find out more about the things that I care about, go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. I don't know why. I'm still trying to type. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.